nobody's ever heard of fry sauce. Jesus Christ.
Fry sauce is the shit, okay? I didn't eat her
Have you guys
fucking...
even heard of Wi-Fi out here? Jesus, meat has really gone to rubble since I left.
Look, it was one time, and that's all we're gonna say, okay? That's all we're gonna say. Alright? Moving on. The myth of the fry sauce, the golden fry sauce, yeah. All of that.
Oh, I just don't have for lunch and stuff.
Yeah, back when it was good, back when it was fun. Yeah. Well, anyway, we're recording, okay?
Are we doing a shitty joke?
No, because I don't have shitty jokes for dead pets, and I'm not that kind of person.
Oh my god, wait, okay, I do. Okay,
oh my god. Well, go on. For once, you have a shitty joke.
Have we started?
Yeah, we're recording, yeah. I heard that whole fried sauce, everything, yeah.
Okay, good. You can keep that. So, how many pets does it take to paint the side of a house?
I'm sure I'm not going to want to know the answer to this, but how many?
Depends on how hard you throw them, Nathan. So, Pet Sematary.
Okay, yeah, before we get into this, we just want to call out something here. This was a fan request, our first ever fan request, which is really, really good. Super, super into that. And
Woo!
Pablo, shouting at you, bro. You're a good man. But we should let you know, Pablo, that we recorded this. This is our second time recording this episode because our last episode, the last time we recorded this was the shittiest thing I've ever heard, and trust me, trust and believe, you wouldn't want to hear it. It would be a failure on our behalf, and I think it's due in part to how convoluted and crazy this plot is, because Stephen King, no matter how much we love you, man, and this is apparently like your best-selling book, but man, do you create a plot line that is just so fucking convoluted. I mean, you said it earlier that like this film, this book, like all these characters have their own separate storylines, their arcs, all of that kind of thing, dealing with grief. Someone has The Shining.
You need to put it down.
Yeah. You gotta edit is the word of the day.
Yeah, Pablo, I want to see it posted on your story for this. This is our second time doing this shit.
You give us a shout out and we good. You can do another one. We're good. We'll listen to you.
Yeah, for sure.
So, are we going to do an intro? Because we failed to do that last time.
Hi.
Well, hello. In the words of Obi-Wan, hello there.
I'm Nathan, and I'd rather be killed off.
And I'm Lee, and unfortunately, you'll be typecasted in the sequel.
All my life. So yeah, Pet Sematary, guys. Just bear with us on this one. This is a mess. Stephen King just threw a bunch of words together in a bowl, opened up a little 8-ball of Coke, poured it on top, lit it on fire, stuck a cover with a dead cat on the front, and sold it to us. And we bought it.
Yeah, we did. We soaked it up, you know. Stephen King was a biscuit, and we let him soak us up. That's definitely it with this film, for sure. First of all, we do want to clarify, we're talking about the 1989 film, not the recent remake, and not the reboot that's currently being remade. I think you said there's a reboot on the way.
I think so, but it's coming directly to Paramount Plus, so that gives me the indication that it might be like a TV show, which I actually think might be like kind of the key way to do this story, because like we said, it's a lot to kind of, which is very on brand for Stephen King, it's a lot to kind of like mash into one movie, especially when the movie's like no joke, not very good. it's a lot to cover. There's a lot of bases to go into, and there's a lot of stuff that's like halfway hinted at, that you kind of have to talk about that
Yeah.
almost kind of doesn't go anywhere. So I think a TV show might be the optimal way to do this.
I totally agree with that. Actually, I think a lot of these plots, like we said earlier, there's a lot of these plots where everyone sort of has their own kind of theme, their sort of storyline, and then like an arc towards the end. I mean, it's a bleak ending, but like everyone has an arc towards the end of the film and the book. Sorry. So I think, like you said, like a separate series where like either each person gets an episode or there's an overarching theme that each person gets an episode to do. So I think that would be a really good way to do it. Because like we said earlier, this we recorded this episode once before in order to provide it for you, and my god, it was a hot shitty ass fucking hot mess. And the buffoonery, yeah, it's just because it's so convoluted. So we are going to try do sort of a point talking system where we have a few points to talk about, and we're going to discuss, dissect, and disembowel this movie.
I was going to say, Stephen King, sometimes less is better. Just sometimes you don't have to put every thought that comes into your head onto the page.
Less is better.
And I do agree that like this, it's a very good story. Like the actual like bare bones of it is very good. The idea of like the horror of losing a child. I feel for like spoiler alert, it's like a 30-year-old movie, 40-year-old book or whatever. I feel like that the horror of like losing your child is like for parents like the ultimate horror over literally like the world. And it's like, and like seeing your child die, especially like a child so young. I feel like yeah, like Stephen King, I know describes this as like his scariest story because it's so close and personal to him that it's like kind of, yeah, it really like he speaks from the heart. A little bit too much, but he speaks from the heart.
It's true. He actually, in order for the inspiration for the book and then obviously the subsequent film, was the two kind of scenes. Sorry, the biggest kind of fear mongering scene in this film, which is Gage's death. Spoiler alert: the child dies. Gage's death is actually similar to his own son, who, because they did move out to a place in Maine, and it was by a busy road, and his son, Stephen King's son, did nearly die by being run over on this busy road, and then he found his son's cat, who was killed on the road. So it is a sort of almost a very personal kind of book that he wrote, and it's very obvious with it, the inspiration for sure. Because I think the thing is, like, we have words for like kids who lose their parents, orphans, a spouse who loses wife or husband, a widower, but we don't have a word for parents who lose their children, like, which is really really weird to me. We don't actually have a term for that, which is crazy. So yeah, I think definitely there's a lot to be spoken about this, and we actually talked about this in our topic episode about the fact that the death of children, or the death of innocence in general, meaning animals, in by extension animals as well, is a sort of a, not a taboo subject, but a subject that is sorely kind of frowned upon, when it comes to terms of dramatization.
Ingrained in like creatures in general, the idea of like having, like most creatures, like the idea of having to like protect your young, like even if you don't have children, like there's still generally still some kind of instinct to like want to save children. Like even if it's like a kid that's like fallen over, or a kid that's gonna like eat something dangerous, it's like your like immediate response kicks into like, no, you're a child. Like it's a kid. You have to like save them. And most animals are kind of that way. And then like I think like to see because like yeah, like with children, it's like the whole thing is like a perceived innocence, that it's like they haven't like lived yet, so like they have to be innocent, they're born innocent. And then to kind of see that in a story like this be kind of subverted, and to kind of have children be evil, or like
undead,
yeah, to kind of have children be yeah, seems like really creepy. And like I think like that actually pops up. It pops up quite a lot. The idea of like creepy kids, um, in movies. You know, I
Yeah,
think like this is a great example that like Gage in this movie is yeah, kind of like a really good creepy kid.
yeah.
You know, like an
That
evil
kid.
kid,
Oh my
which is something
god.
we're not used to seeing.
Yeah, that kid. Miko Hughes was his name. He
Yeah,
absolute fantastic child actor. He appears in Wes Craven's New Nightmare as Heather Langenkamp's son, or sorry, not Heather Langenkamp. Yeah, Heather Langenkamp, right?
yeah,
I'm not
Heather
mixing that. Yeah, yeah.
kid. Yeah, she plays herself in the movie. Yeah,
As Nancy. Well, towards the end of the film as Nancy, but yeah, Miko Hughes a little bit older now in that film than this film, but like for sure,
plays Dylan.
I just iconic little dude. And speaking of iconic, Fred Gwynn as Judd Crandall.
Oh yeah,
Oh yeah,
don't cut on that rod.
you're gonna hear a
It's
lot of
literally
that
Robin
accent.
Munster, like horror legend.
Yeah,
You know,
this film was directed by Mary Lambert, and that director she was coined by King, specifically chosen by King because she um, really kind of knew in depth about the book. She felt the themes. She knew what she wanted to put on film, and King agreed. So like he really wanted, he really pushed for Mary Lambert to be the director, and I really appreciate that because now there are some questionable scenes in this film, and then some of the kind of more interesting stuff about the book is kind of left out. But I think what we do see on screen is pretty interesting, and however, some questionable acting skills. But we'll get to that.
yeah. Well, she's known for music videos. She directed Madonna's like a prayer video,
Like a
and
prayer.
like kind of
I'll
was
take you
like
there.
quite well known. Which is one of my favorite Madonna videos. Like Madonna, Catholicism, Black Jesus. Like I'm all there for it. And
Amen. Black Jesus.
she also had like an in with the Ramones, which was
Yeah.
like one of King's like favorite bands at the time. And who also kind of they provide like some of the music in this movie. We get like
The
Sheena as a punk
soundtrack.
rocker in well, yeah, kind of like they have the song "Pet Cemetery" that plays over the credits, and we have Sheena as a punk rocker when Gage is smashed by a truck.
Smashed by a truck.
Yeah,
Well,
Engage's fight against the front of the giant truck. Yeah,
he fought so hard and got so far, but in the end, it doesn't even matter. That was a Linkin Park reference.
but in the end, you went under the tire. Yeah, sorry. So bad. Oh, poor Gage.
Poor Gage. Yeah, so we get kind of the first thing we kind of really wanted to talk about. I mean, it's in the title itself, Pet Cemetery. So we wanted to kind of talk about the burial ground and another character that's sort of more mentioned in the book but kind of less mentioned in the film, which is the Wendigo.
Mm-hmm. I feel like they didn't have the kind of wherewithal slash research slash yeah, they really didn't have what they needed to like show us a good Wendigo on screen. We kind
Yeah.
of get this just lawnmower man early 80s CG thing that just comes out of the stone and just like oh, and then that's kind of it. Like we don't get any anthropomorphic humanoid deer walking around.
Yeah.
We don't really get much native mysticism, if at all. Which I think like genuinely would have actually made this more interesting if we had like if like I understand the idea that like the Micmacs, those are the tribe that we're talking about specifically. That's the like the people's ground who they're on. I understand that they like fled because the ground went quote unquote sour.
I love that.
And what kind of like gives me the idea that like it went sour. It wasn't always sour, so that like this ground was used for good and did bring good results. at some point in time, and then yeah, something went wrong. Somebody ate somebody, became a Wendigo, and fucked the whole game up for everybody.
Yeah, so
I'm gonna say it. The Max fucked up burying people in the ground. There, I said it. I said it. Shout out to the Micmacs, an actual tribe in America, who were not very happy about this
yeah,
book
they were
and
not.
movie coming out.
Yeah.
No.
What they sort of they allude to it in the film. In the book, it's explained a lot more. But basically, the cemetery that Judd takes Lewis when he wants to bury his cat and then subsequently buries his son in is a Micmac burial ground and has quote unquote, like you said, gone sour as a result of burying people that who were possessed by the spirits of cannibalism, i.e., the Wendigo.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason the dead come back polluted is because of the Wendigo's influence. Yeah, it was just really, really kind of interesting, and I think it's really, really kind of sort of a theme that's like not really kind of in pop culture that much. I mean, I know there's a film coming out called Antlers that is specifically to do.
I'm so excited.
Yeah, it's specifically to do with the literal Wendigo. But in the film,
Yeah.
like we get some screams, some weird kind of howls, and things like that. But apart from that, we don't
Come
really
on, that's just a loon.
Yeah, it's just a loon.
Yeah.
But for anyone who,
Well, we get the kind of idea that the Wendigo, or this, sorry,
no,
the idea
ahead,
of like the Wendigo kind of compels everything to go on. We get the idea that Judd is
under the influence,
kind of a tool that's being used in a way. Exactly, yeah. Like because he's kind of the only person around, I guess it's a kind of like you use that catalyst to kind of draw people in.
Yeah.
We actually kind of get the idea. No, I actually haven't read the book because I don't want to. We get the idea that like the more you bury people in this land, the more you're kind of compelled to keep doing, or you're kind of drawn back to do it. And now we will learn further on in the movie that Judd has already buried 2 people there. And that to me is kind of the reason why he's so entwined in this story, and why Judd is kind of more a force of, albeit not directly, but more of a force of evil than of good in this movie. He's good, kind of the reason when everything goes on, like directly. Like we have the Wendigo in the background, but it's like Judd is kind of moving everything along and doing everything. Like we get that kind of scene where he's like, "Damn it, Lewis, I killed your son." You know, and it's like, yeah, well, why did you do that? Why did you tell me about this fucking thing? Yeah, now, don't go down that road. Don't go down that road. But you can bring your son back to life down that road. You know?
Yeah, he sort of acts as either a catalyst or a plot device per se, in order to further, excuse me, in order to further kind of storylines, with regards to enticing people into the pet cemetery and then further to the Micmac burial grounds. But in fairness, if it wasn't for Judd, I don't think Lewis would have gone any further than the pet cemetery, you know? But it does.
Oh, no, for sure.
Yeah. So in case anyone is sorry. In case anyone's wondering, like, we are referencing the Wendigo. It's a mythological creature of or evil spirit which originates from the folklore of First Nations based in and around the East Coast forests of Canada. The Wendigo is often said to be a malevolent spirit, sometimes depicted as a creature with human-like characteristics which possesses human beings. The Wendigo is known to invoke feelings of insatiable greed or hunger, the desire to cannibalize other humans, as well as the propensity to commit murder in those that fall under its influence. So it's definitely like when you get the sense that the cat Churchill, Gage comes back, and then eventually, subsequently, his mother comes back, that you see that murderous desire, that kind of malicious intent to kill or harm any other living thing around them, which makes sense.
Yeah, and we've seen this thing even in the second movie. We kind of get the idea that it's like, well, maybe if you start out bad and are buried in this place, you come back good. We get with, I think his name is Gus in the second movie, the kind of stepfather character. He
The
starts
dickhead
off as a
character.
dickhead asshole and comes back kind of in a good way, which is like, yeah, why we get Gage being kind of the most evil in this movie because he started out as like the most innocent.
Yeah.
And even small things like the kite being blown the way it is blown, or church coming all the way back, we kind of, in my head, I get the idea that it's like these things are all being kind of puppet strings by the Wendigo in some way,
Yes.
shape, or form, or like the ground itself. Like we get the idea that the actual like land itself
Is
is
evil.
powerful enough to kind of create Wendigos, almost. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. I really do appreciate the kind of lore that Stephen King kind of went into, specifically with his book and then the subsequent film. The later on film, the remake of the previous Pet Cemetery, actually does. We do get to see the Wendigo, but it's only in a way that, like, I want to say it's backlit, but it's also front lit in a way that obscures its full body. But like, there is one shot where you do see just the top of its head and the antlers sticking up over the tops of trees, which gives you like an indication of how big it is and how powerful it is. But other than that, you kind of still don't get that sense that the Wendigo is partially responsible for what's going on. You just get the sense that it's the burial ground that's sour, that's evil, that is the real kind of cause of everything. Yeah, it's pretty good though.
Yeah, like everything else is kind of like a byproduct of the land itself. And
Yeah,
like I think like in the remake, it's actually much more because they do switch it up just a little bit. Not enough for it to be so vastly different, but I do get the idea more so that um smaller coincidences seem to kind of line themselves up in the remake more,
yeah,
which to me spells out yeah, that things are being put in play, that these people are kind of fated for this anyway, just from being there. It's almost much more like kind of Final Destination ish, where we get kind of like the Wendigo being like kind of the equivalent to like death in those movies, like really
yeah,
kind of just like setting people up to fail, not outrightly like coming and attacking people, just like setting kind of traps for people almost.
yeah. Absolutely. I do. I do like it because it gives you that whole kind of walk up, the pet cemetery with all the random like cute little names for like goldfish and like pigeons and budgies and dogs and
There's a goldfish.
there's a goldfish. Yeah. I will say it. I did mention this before in the previous thing, but I will give it to the new film for sort of not using Judd as a plot device for finding the pet cemetery at first. In the remake of the film, they have all these kids who perform a funerary procession into the pet cemetery, and that's where Lewis and his family find like kind of what goes beyond it. But I really do like the idea of the kids literally taking a dog in a wooden cart down that road and then like just banging small drums like weird Wicker Man esque like masks on and stuff.
I was going to say that whole procession thing to me was so kind of like I side eyed it like Loki a little bit. I don't know. I kind of prefer the idea that Judd is like yeah being used as like a tool to kind of like
Bring dead people
bring
back.
everybody's like to go. Yeah, yeah. Like we almost get the idea that like Judd is kind of just sitting there because like we get that Judd has been living there alone even before the Creeds like move in or whatever. I kind of like the idea that Judd is just kind of like waiting for people to like show up to like get this whole thing going again,
Yeah.
to start the world's slowest zombie apocalypse by having somebody die, get buried in this, come back, kill somebody, and then also bury them there. You know, it's
Yeah.
DIY zombie apocalypse. It would take so fucking long.
Well, I mean, speaking of zombies, the return of the deceased is sort of a part of this film that, like, I mean, there's loads of like different stories. There's loads of different kind of mythos and weird kind of things that happen. I mean, like the oldest thing that's sort of brought up is a flashback scene that Judd talks about with Lewis's Dale Micklif's character Lewis, which is fucking awful. Like, don't hire that man ever again.
He's so pretty though.
But a terrible actor. He's fucking terrible. He's awful at acting.
But I want him. Daddy, I love him.
But we sort of get this kind of flashback scene to the story of Timmy Baderman, which is like the previous person that the Micmac burial ground brought back to life. And this is what I was talking about earlier, that either the Wendigo has the influence or the burial ground has the influence of returning these people sour or possessed by evil spirits, because Timmy Baderman, he sort of looks like a zombie when he shows up in the film. Like, I mean, he's definitely Night of the Living Dead for sure, but he's a sassy little shit.
Oh, he's a zombie.
He goes around telling secrets of the town.
Yeah, literally, that's what they do in the book. It's just like, the Return just chat shit. They just chat shit to everybody by being like, hey, your wife is totally fucking the neighbor. Like, they just go around, like, spilling everybody's tea. Also, Timmy is no good name for a grown man. What are you calling this man Timmy for?
Timmy Baderman.
Yeah, and he kind of shows up, like, yeah, very much so, like, classic Romero zombie. Like, he's not all, like, blood and guts and shit everywhere, but, like, which we do get. But, yeah, literally, arms outstretched, Frankenstein style, kind of, like, lurching after
some woman at a clothesline.
What is it, his mother?
Yeah.
Because I think, yeah, she's, like, hanging up the clothesline, and he gets way too close to her before she notices. He gets, like, right up on her, and then she notices, and just goes inside, just goes into the house.
Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah. I love that because, like, the whole story of, like, Timmy going around telling secrets of, like, the townspeople, and when, like, they arrive like a fucking lynch mob with fire to, like, Brennan, like, how dare you say I was cheating on my wife, you know? And they burn him down with his
scene
dad.
where they burn that house down. Yeah. That scene is a trip because his dad is still in there, and there's so many points where his dad could have, like, gotten out, and he's like, "No, but he's my son," and then they kind of just like, "Well, you chose what you chose," and then they just burn both of these people alive, like the dad and Timmy.
Yeah, like I really kind of do love.
And Judd was there.
Judd was there. Yeah, he was. Yeah. I do think it's really great that King does kind of put in these, like, snippets of, like, previous stories or creepy things in flashbacks. Like, I love it. It's the same with when I mean, we can kind of get into it specifically when we kind of talk about, but you know what I'm talking about. Like, there's so many flashbacks. There's dairy interludes about, like, when it was around the last time and years ago and blah blah. So I really do appreciate that he kind of carries it over to here and does the same thing, because the other flashback that we get, again, we get so many flashbacks in this film, was Judd's dog, Judd's own pet dog, who did die on the same road. This road eats up a lot of pets, or something like that.
Yeah.
And he buries his dog in the Micmac burial ground, and the dog comes back smelling of earth, smelling of rot, and trying to attack his parents. And he had to kill the dog, essentially. And
that's also crazy because his mother is just doing the laundry, and the dog comes out and is, like, growling and, like, baring teeth at her, and she doesn't do anything about it. She calls out her, like, preteen son to come out and take care of your dog. You know what I mean? You're gonna send your child out to take care of this, like, rabid, like, what appears to be rabid dog.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But touch on what you said there, though. I love that Stephen King does that, and I know a lot of people don't like that about Stephen King, is that his, like his kind of style of writing is, very kind of, like, flashback based, very kind of, like, internal thought based. It's a lot of people speaking in their own head.
Yeah.
But I like, and I've said this before, I love seeing, like, iterations of the current story in a different time.
Yes.
Like how, like how would have natives dealt with the kind of Pennywise problem, and, like, what would their fear have been? And as we see, it kind of generates itself as like a giant bird. You know, I
Yeah.
love seeing like iterations of that, and I enjoy Stephen King for like doing things like that. I think flashbacks are like a very good way to kind of convey like his point, especially because like a lot of his stories are very like location based, if
Mm-hmm.
that makes sense. Like a lot of what is going on has to do with like where they are, you know. So I think like giving a history of whatever town, city, whatever you're in, I think like is really helpful.
Yeah. I would personally, like you just said there, with dealing with the natives with it, I would have loved to have seen, or at least read, a written scene by King about the time when the Wendigo had cursed the Micmac lands. I would have loved to have found out like how that happened, like when it happened, why it happened. I mean, I know that in order to, in like Native American culture, the myth around the Wendigo is a person out of desperation commits to cannibalism, and then they are subsequently transformed by the evil spirit of the intent of that act into, the horned, typical Wendigo that we see. So I would love to have known, like, how did that work? Did someone do it and then became a Wendigo and that person cursed that land, or was it a spirit? Or I think that would be so interesting to really find out like how that happened and why it happened.
Yeah, like seeing the transition between the ground being fresh and sour.
Yeah.
I think like that could also be kind of a good alternate route to go down for whatever the next project is, because I think like with this story, because like it is very convoluted, but it's like the bare bones are very basic, and like um watching this and the remake, you're kind of sitting there being like, yeah, okay, and then this happens, and then this happens. Like you kind of know what's going to be there. I would almost enjoy for them to explore the mysticism of the Wendigo, and the natives' relationship with the land in this new project. I think that would be like a good turnaround,
Yeah.
something fresh.
Yeah. Like a prologue kind of thing, or something like a flashback. I think that would be really, really good. I mean, specifically because like that's what King does when it comes to films or his books. Like he literally does flashback scenes, so it would be great to see how that would be interpreted on screen. Because I don't think a Wendigo has
Yeah.
kind of been done justice in a way. At least I can't think of
Has
anything.
been.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no. Like there's, I think it's Until Dawn. There's that game, but even then, they're like
It looks like
the
Gollum with teeth.
representation of.
It's
Yeah,
not a
exactly.
Wendigo.
It doesn't. It's not like what we'd like typically align with a Wendigo.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed. Antlers. I think that's a Del Toro,
That's Del Toro,
right?
yeah. Yeah. Super excited.
Curious. That man has a really, really good like way with monsters and myth and
And there's a real respect for it as
folklore.
well. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I think he'll really nail it. Now, I don't know whether or not they're going to go into native mysticism in Antlers. I feel like it would kind of be stupid not to. It would be kind of stupid to ignore the origins of where this thing came from and
Yeah.
not kind of focus on it. But yeah, I have faith. Guillermo del Toro, you're a good lad. Good shout, Guillermo.
Deep friend of the pod.
In case he's listening.
The other two kind of people that, I mean, if you kind of can't ignore them, I mean, besides the cat coming back and being a total prick for most of the movie, Gage and subsequently his mother after being killed by him. But Gage tends to be, like you said earlier, is the scariest character that comes back because, in a way, he's more malevolent. He's more, I mean, apart from being a kid that's a fucking little shit anyway, he's more malevolent and more brutal when he comes back than anything else. And especially with regards to his mother, because he torments his mother by becoming her dead sister Zelda. And I mean, we'll get into that, but yeah, like Gage is definitely the freakiest for sure. And in part, Mika Hughes like nails it as a demented little possessed undead kid.
And like you kind of brought up earlier, yeah, like I would have initially known him from New Nightmare. I watched that movie all the time as a kid. Traumatized myself, but loved it. He kind of plays a very similar role in that movie also, where he
Mm-hmm.
like Loki is like possessed by Freddy in a weird way,
Yeah.
and like there's a scene like he taped, and I very definitely did this. He like taped like
I know what
butter
you're gonna
knives like
say.
to his fingers or whatever like that. I loved doing that as a kid though.
Yeah.
Like I don't know how many fucking like shitty like €2 shop Freddy gloves I had as a kid, not even like in Freddy costume, just like wearing
Yeah.
around the house. I think it was the idea of having nails.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't so much the knives, it was the idea of having some like nail thing. I was
Because
a
you were
big fan of
drag
those little like
queen.
rubber witch fingers. Yeah, exactly. Two Freddy gloves at all times, top
Yeah.
painted like pink or whatever, Very Nicki Minaj in Magic Bad, if you know, you know. So Pet Cemetery, would rather be talking about anything other than this movie.
I tend to think that, especially with the way Gage was just so cute and loving, and like he loves the cat and all of this kind of thing, that when he turns around and I mean, like, we get into it with Judd and the where what happens to him, but like especially with his mother, because he becomes this malicious little thing, and when he does torture his mother, he tortures her in a way that isn't just like, I'm gonna stab. He mentally breaks her down.
Yeah, it's like such a
Yeah,
shit.
he fucks with her in such a horrible way that she literally just, I think even in the shot, like, she just backs out of the scene, and like Gage just comes at her with the what is it?
Scalpel.
The scalpel, with Lewis's scalpel, and then that's all we see. Like, she doesn't put up a fight. She's just mentally broken down. And not to mention that, like, the whole time she's been like rushing back because she knows something bad is happening, so she's already exhausted. So yeah, it's pretty evil.
Well, yeah, we kind of get the idea that they're, well, not even get the idea. Very much so in Stephen King's thing, there's always this like sense of duality, that it's like we focus on the dark, but there is always light, i.e., the turtle in it. And in this, we get Pascal, who's kind of the counterpart to the Wendigo or the Micmac land. He's a helpful spirit, and we're actually not given an explanation as to why this is. My explanation is that Stephen King saw American Werewolf in London, and loved it.
But
also, like, we get Rachel has this kind of really weird, well, not weird, I understand why, but she has this like kind of fixation about death, and she's very anti-death. Like, even in the Pet Cemetery, Judd, and like I agree with Judd that he's like, I think pets are like the perfect way to introduce children to the idea of mortality. Like, that sounds really grim, but he's like, well, look, it's a good way for kids to learn that like things have to die, and like that's the cycle of life. And she turns and she's like, why? She's so pissed. She just cannot handle it, and obviously because she went through this like traumatic, exactly. Ay, Dios mío, de la muerte. She hates it. But like, yeah, she had this like huge kind of traumatic like story as a child, and like we'll touch briefly on her parents. Her parents are awful. They're so bad. They start a fight at Gage's funeral with Lewis in front of everyone, up against Gage's casket. God. To the point where like the dad like throws Lewis up against Gage's casket, and it falls down, and we get this very music video shot where like the cast kind of like falls in slow motion, and then it like hits the floor and bounces open for a sec, and we see Gage's arm just like flop around inside the casket, and then everybody, like, Lewis looks up and he's like, ah! He just cannot handle it. There's a lot of slow motion emotion in this.
Yeah.
Slow emotion.
Especially with like, obviously, like, the contrast is there, like, very telenovela, all of that. But that's obviously, like, Gage's death is the exact same. It, like, he runs up, and again, this being very personal to King, you want to be respectful to it, but the way Dale Midcliffe acts this scene is just fucking terrible.
It's so funny.
It's Like
No! Gage, no! He's no Tony Collette. I'll just say this.
you don't feel. You don't
And right
feel.
after that,
Yeah.
there's like this, like a very, again, Mary Lambert, I see you. Very, very music video shot where, like, directly after Cage's death, like, transition into this scene. There's like we see like a table with like slow motion Polaroids like cascading down onto it of like Gage and the family, and like Lewis is just kind of sitting there at the table. But like in my head, I'm like, is Lewis just like out of frame, like holding a stack of Polaroids, just like frisbeeing them down onto the table, you know? And then Jude comes in, is basically just like, I killed your son. You know, you couldn't tell. You didn't
Very
know.
sharing, you know, like walking around. Oh.
Exactly. By the way, remember that burial ground that I showed you to bring your cat back to life? Wink, wink. Don't go up there. Don't go. Like he's doing the thing where you're saying no, but you're nodding yes, you know? By the way, don't go and get your son who's just buried and bring him up to that place that I showed you specifically how to get there and told you where to step and where not to step, and bury him into this ground, bro.
Plot device.
And when you back him up to life? Exactly.
Yeah.
A mess.
Like you were mentioning there, like with Pascal and Rachel and things like that, there's a lot of like kind of dealing with traumatic experiences in this film. Like, God, you could draw a lot of parallels with this and Hereditary in a weird way, because no one deals with them properly at all. So
that's great.
It really does. Like it works well, but for an entirely like different context, if you know what I mean. It's the same theme, like just not dealing with grief.
Hereditary was poo.
Yeah, I guess if Hereditary was poo, but it does. It deals with the exact same theme, just in a really crappier way. It's dealing, this film like is just it's dealing with grief in an unhealthy way. Apart from like where Hereditary does it successfully, Pet Sematary doesn't really do it that successfully, but they sort of come across in the characters of like Zelda and Pascal, because like Pascal is the kind of the guide. He's there to help, like you said. Zelda is sort of the complete and utter opposite end of that spectrum, where Zelda is this kind of tormentor that constantly berates Rachel in her dreams, in obviously like in the form of Gage as Zelda, like you'll never sleep again, yeah, all of that kind of thing. For context,
Rachel's a dickhead. She's like, we used to wish that she died. I'm just saying, like, no joke. Like they'd be hearing like noises from the back, and they're like, God, is she dead or what? You know, like she'd wake up in the morning and be like, God, I hope Zelda's fucking dead, bro. And then she's like pissed when her sister dies. You know, what an inconvenience for me. My sister with multiple sclerosis has died on my watch. Oh, man.
Yeah. For context,
yeah, should be haunted, Rachel.
For context, just in case anyone is wondering about it, Zelda is Rachel's sister who did die when Rachel was a lot younger. I think Zelda in the book, she's seen as like a 13-year-old or something like that. But for the film, Mary Lambert struggled to find like a 12, 13-year-old that could make like the horrible, like back-twisted scoliosis looking thing scary. So she used a male actor in his late teens to dress up as quote unquote the older sister Zelda, and this was
teens.
Yeah, late teens. Yeah,
that's a man, Maury. That's an old looking teen.
But it was definitely the scene in the film that kind of scared me the most, because it's like that uncanny valley thought process. Like I just did not know what I was looking at, and it freaked me the fuck out. I would consistently cover my eyes whenever Zelda would appear. And that was actually the thing I was one kind of most looking forward to in the new Pet Sematary film, was how they would interpret Zelda. And believe it or not, I actually think they interpreted Zelda in a very good way, because they changed her death story in the new film as they did with the old film. The old film, Zelda had choked, I think, and then died because she couldn't breathe. Whereas Zelda, it was something. Yeah, she kind of,
the dumbwaiter.
yeah, she fell down the dumbwaiter and then like just completely like snapped her spine in the worst way. And then they found her the following day by lifting up and finding. Oh god, it was horrible. And then the scene where Gage does pretend to be Zelda and like she's creeping out of the dumbwaiter, and oh, it's just, that was like really effectively scary for me, because you just, again, it's like you didn't know what you were looking at. You just knew like, what the fuck, what the fuck, what the fuck, you know? So I do think simple things like that in this film worked really, really well.
And on that point of Zelda, I feel like Zelda, if anybody remembers this movie, like if you're ever like bringing this movie up in conversations, like Zelda is like the thing that people kind of like remember, like she's the thing that like stuck in people's head, because she's the most like and obviously like her condition is like that like doesn't happen where you're like to the degree that it happens, she's like a monster. Like they make her out to be like a creature in the back bedroom, where like her spine is like jutting out in places and all like, yeah, like they make her look insane. And I feel like she's kind of like the most outright monster. Like even with Gage, when Gage comes back, Gage still just looks like Gage. He's just acting creepy. And like when Rachel comes back, she has like, well, I suppose like literally half of her head is exposed. But like Zelda, like there's one actually particular scene which is even above Gage getting hit by the truck, even above church, all that kind of stuff, is the thing that stands out in my mind as the scene from Pet Sematary. It's the last time we see Rachel kind of in her dream talking to Zelda, and Zelda's like in one corner of the room, and then she kind of like goes from cowering to like, she gets like right up into the camera. And she's like, never move again. It's so creepy. It's so good. So effective.
It's definitely like, yeah, like it's apart from anything, it's always that one scene. And it's not even the fact that it's a jump scare, it's more like you can see her in the corner like she's cowering in the corner, and then she just walks right up to, it's very, very scary and very effective, because like you see like the terror.
It's actually a very kind of David Lynch kind of scare.
Yes that like I want to describe it as the homeless man behind the corner of the wall behind the diner.
Played by Bonnie Aarons, who plays Valak in
Love it.
Every fucking Conjuring movie. Or kind of actually reminded me of Laura Dern in Inland Empire. There's a lot of scenes in that movie where she gets like, another David Lynch movie, where she gets like really like right up into the camera, and it's like that closeness kind of like, it's really, really scary. And you kind of don't see it a lot in movies where people get like right up, like face pressed against the glass of the camera, like close. I think it's really good. Zelda's like a really good source of horror in this movie. Very scary. I'm moved on from Zelda. I'm fucking over Zelda.
So the next thing I kind of wanted to talk about was the fact that King tries to slightly name drop, but also not name drop one of his biggest like creations, which is The Shining. And we don't get the name drop, but we definitely get the sense that Ellie, which is Lewis and Rachel's daughter, the other kid that didn't die, has The Shining, has a fifth sense. And it's not specifically confirmed, but it's most likely just Pascal, like, you know, being a dick, I could say, and annoying the kid instead of talking to the mother. But yeah, it's either that or she has The Shining. I don't know. It's sort of a guess, really.
We all have five senses.
Oh, is it a sixth sense? Oh wow, I'm so stupid.
Ellie can see, hear, taste, and feel at the same time. Whoa. We definitely do get the sense that she's like a little
That's
dunny
four
in this movie because
senses.
she's basically like, um, what's the other one? Taste, hear, feel, sight. What's the other one?
I don't know. Hold on.
That
Hey
movie is called The
Siri,
Sixth Sense because he can also see dead people.
what are the five senses? Come on,
You
Siri.
better keep
Hey
this in this
Siri.
fucking episode, I swear to God.
Hey Siri. What are the five senses?
Sense relates to any of the systems and corresponding organs involved in sensation. That is the physical process of responding to stimuli and providing data for perception. Do you want me to keep reading?
No, you're good.
Just say them.
Like that could have helped the most.
Okay, hold on. Now I'm like invested. Now I want to know what this is. You better keep this little piece in the episode, bro. This show will be funny as hell.
Oh, smell. Sight,
There you
hearing,
go.
touch, smell, taste.
Well, there you go. Ellie can do all of these things, and it's amazing.
And more.
She learned it from her grandmother. Yeah. No, but for real, we get the sense that Ellie is basically Danny from The Shining in this movie because
Yeah.
she's communicating with Pascal, which is a thing of The Shining, being able to like communicate with the dead, because like we get that Rachel cannot because
Yes.
Pascal is trying to communicate with her directly, like by being there and physically moving objects, and she doesn't get the sense that he's there. But Ellie is having dreams, visions, all this kind of shit. She's like seeing the future, you know. Yeah, Ellie's a
like
piece of shit. Sorry.
Well, like speaking of Pascal,
This girl is so annoying.
There's several times that Pascal really kind of intervenes physically in the world of the living, like physically holding open a door as an air hostess is closing it for final call, like pointing out, like, look at this, fucking look at this on the table, like, yeah, fucking go here, and then like he just like disappears, like at the end, like he stays in the truck and he's like, my work here is done.
Bye. Yeah, he just dissolves out of frame, and a lot of the effects that they use for him are so bad. Where like you can tell, like the green screen technology was just not up to par. It was bad, but I like him. I like Pascal as a character in this movie because he's kind of funny. He's kind of, I was gonna say bitchy, but like Pascal doesn't do bitchy. He does sassy. Like he's very that. You know. But yeah, there's times where people notice shit happening in the physical world besides the people in our main story. Like, yeah, in that scene where she's like running to the airport and is trying to get on the plane, which you should be able to do. You should have gotten here on time, Rachel. Just FYI, ET jokes. And that's white privilege right there. That's live privilege right there. No, but like, Pascal like puts his arm out and stops this door from closing, and the flight attendant and Rachel both are like, like they both look at it and they're like, "What the fuck?" And then they just forget about it and just move on.
Oh my god! Like speaking of like bad CGI and terrible effects, that Gage fight at the end between him and his father, like there's several moments. There is several moments where, oh my god, I just, like, it's the same with Danny in The Shining. Like, once you see it, you can't unsee it. Every single frame.
It's stiff, baby.
Doll.
Yeah. Crazy. It's hilarious.
Oh and Gage likes to set dress as well. He set dresses for the ending. Girl, when he does the whole hanging his mother for a jump scare for his father, girl.
How the fuck did he do that? How the fuck did Gage do that? Gage like cannot even physically open doors by himself. But yeah, he's able to get the fucking styra down, get the styra down from the attic, and hang his fucking man from a rope, and have it so that she's like perfectly timed to just kind of pop out when when fucking Lewis comes the fuck over. Like, seriously.
Oh god. Yeah, like I mean also not to mention like we completely forgot to like mention the whole death of Judd. Like this dude, like Gage becomes like a fucking sadomasochist because holy shit, like the evil shit that he does to Judd is unbelievable. Oh god. And then the cat's
But
also
I
a
think his
prick.
too, it's like Judd is arguably the reason why he's dead.
Yes.
You know, like the death that Judd gets is like kind of, well, yeah, it's the most out and out
Extra.
violent and like gory, and it's kind of the only one that we actually see. Um, where and this is also, yeah, I suppose another thing that I like very closely associate with Pet Sematary is the Achilles tendon just being cut, and we see it, they show it, and I'm not squeamish. I really am not squeamish at all. Like, you could show me somebody in a movie getting like every layer of skin peeled from them, and I'd be like, whatever. But like, first, that's one of the ones that I feel like everybody just kind of like, oh shit. We just see it. It's like he like bends down, and like his like ankle is like sticking out of his slipper or whatever like that, and Gage just like shoves that fucking scalpel right into it, and we see it like he's kind of sawing through it, and then Judd is like hanging back with the mouth like fully open. Ooh. And Gage takes the scalpel and just runs it across the mouth and gives him like a Chelsea grin. It's so good. It's so good.
I do want to speak to the fact that the cat is like, I know it's a British short hair, and there was like several different cats that played all the one cat, you know. Yeah, look at you, cat. I have a cat in my room. And
best actor in the movie.
Yeah. Arguably the best actor, apart from Mika. So when the cat is sort of standing outside, this is like the morning after, when Lewis kind of wakes up and like he finds everything, but outside Judd's house, the cat is there, kind of like all the thing, and he puts it down with an injection into, I think it's the scruff of the neck, to put it to sleep.
Yeah,
because I don't want to say kill the cat, because it's put it to sleep. And just the acting alone from that cat, I felt like, oh, like that's probably like the hardest thing to watch in that film for me, is like just the cat like completely curled in and like motionless, and its eyes are deadpan staring at nothing. You know, it's very sad. I really don't like that part. And then you get
I'll say it because I eat animals. Lewis kills the fucking cat, but like the acting, genuinely the acting from this fucking cat is insane, because it's not like the cat just kind of, and like we even mentioned this in the Halloween episode, sometimes you get a thing where like you do like a reverse shot of an animal to make it look like it's gone from being alive to like limp, but this cat like goes dead like in the face, where like the eyes are still open, it's just blankly staring ahead. Speaking of the cat's eyes, I love this effect that they do with the animals in these two movies, like in Pet Sematary 2 as well. With the white pupil, it looks so good, and this cat just does the perfect like hiss, like every time we just see it like completely like recoil back, very like Lucifer falling to earth, like very like with the like the white pupils. And like the first time when we even said this in our other episode, when Lewis comes back from burying the cat, and the cat finally comes back, there's a scene where the cat just pops out of nowhere from the basement, and Lewis fully just like, ooh, and like falls over. Like, it sounds like I'm exaggerating, right? But like
so
that impression is almost spot on. Yeah, he literally might as well put his two hands up to his face, like Macaulay Culkin and Home Alone style, and like, oh shit, and falls the fuck over.
Yeah, it's
this cat is consistently fucking with Lewis, and I live for it.
It's so unfortunate. Dale's acting abilities in this film are either so underwhelming or so overwhelming that they're just either really, really bad or way too over the top for literally anyone to deal with. And this man, God bless him, he tried his hardest.
Thank God he has fat dick energy.
That's what
I'm
lusting
just
after
saying,
the
Dale, in
dick
case
gets
you're
you.
listening, I want you to come over here and hurt me, okay?
Oh my god. Oh gosh.
I want you to
can't.
play with my emotions. Yeah.
Play with my emotions.
Yeah. I want you to jerk me around. I want you to fuck my life right up. I want you to spend all my money. I would let Dale Midkiff put me in debt. This man is so beautiful, bro.
Oh my god.
Oh, seriously.
Oh, I don't know how to even like continue on, but I don't know how to react to that.
Oh, God.
Speaking of being so extra. Oh god. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, tearing up here. So the last thing I kind of wanted
Got a real big D, he got hurt me.
What?
Sorry. That thing from Nikki's verse on Drag Race. So she's like, if he got a real big D, he could hurt me. Yeah, okay, sorry. Go ahead. And he's a doctor. My mother will be so happy.
He's a doctor. The kind of the last thing I wanted to talk about was the amount of references that King puts into the book and the film. So this, like, I mean, you know as well as I do that King has built all of his books, his films, everything. He wants to interconnect everything. You know, he was doing the K universe, the King universe, long before the MCU came into play, long before the Lord of the Rings came into play with any of this thing. Like, he just wanted to push together all of his stories and things and everything, interconnect them all to make them part of the one universe, ironically only set in Maine. So like there's a few kind of like yeah, just in case you're wondering, literally every setting, if you're unsure, just predict it in Maine and then you're perfectly fine with it.
Stephen King likes to stay local. He said, can I walk to set for my house? Great, I'll do it.
As long as King can walk to set, we're good. So basically, throughout the film and obviously the book as well, there's a good few sprinklings here and there of like place names and even title names. I mean, I think as soon as Lewis walks into the hospital towards the beginning of the film, there's a notice board, and on the front of it there's a missing dog, Cujo. And then, there's like loads of little sprinklets like that in and around. For reference, Cujo is also mentioned by Judd in the book, not by name, but he does say that there was a large Bernard that was rabies-ridden and ended up killing 4 people a couple of years ago. So there's very specific references. And then Rachel...
That's in the remake as well. There's a scene where he like mentions the large Saint Bernard with the rabies. Like they're like a party or like a lunch thing, and we hear him like reference that just off screen.
I think I forgot about that. Rachel ends up, the truck. Excuse me. The truck that Rachel takes home to get back to the house in time. She ends up.
I think I know what you're gonna say.
Yeah, she ends up passing a sign, an offshoot sign that says Jerusalem's Lot on it. And of course, if you know, this is obviously a reference to the shortened name Salem's Lot, which is Stephen King's vampire novel. His version of vampire novel.
Yeah.
Which is, shout out if you want us to either retrospect Cujo or Salem's Lot. I mean, we'll eventually get to it, but if you want to hear it, let us know and we'll definitely jump it in there. And then the last kind of reference
I'd be happy to do that.
I want to make is to Pennywise apparently makes an appearance in a drain, which is strange. So yeah, there's loads of little tidbits about this that works really, really well, and I think it's really great to see all these little things kind of sprinkled around and dotted up,
you know, I've always thought Stephen King was like really, really like successful at being able to connect everything together in like a really kind of organic way. DC, I'm looking at you. Stop what you're fucking doing. Just stop. Um, no, for real. And I love like we get to like the Dark Tower series where like Stephen King, the author, then becomes a character in like his own books, you know. Like we have in pretty much every Stephen King novel, somebody is there as a stand-in for him. Like there's somebody who's going to be like a writer or an English teacher or like an artist. It's always like the main character is some kind of creative, some kind of more intellectual person, and they're always a stand-in for Stephen King, including in the first It movie where we get fucking Bill and his disgusting ponytail. Jesus. And the glasses, like he's wearing like a Stephen King costume.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Oh,
Nasty.
yup.
Yup.
Sometimes that is better.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, apart from kind of like wanting to, as we said earlier, like we kind of fucked up recording this episode once before because we kind of really didn't know how to, you know, convey it or retrospect it. So we kind of wanted to do this kind of, you know, info system of just points and blah, blah, blah. So what we want to know is if you like the way we're doing this, please let us know. If you have any comments, criticisms, critiques, or if you just want to tear the episode a new asshole, perfectly fine. We're all we're all ears.
I can always use the new asshole.
Especially Lee's. So let us know what you think. And that was Pet Sematary, 1989. Yeah.
Yeah, it sure was, Nathan. Thank fucking God. You know, seriously, guys, if you like this kind of switch up in formula, we were talking about doing this for more complicated, more convoluted stories such as this. I feel like it's almost good to do it for most King adaptations because they're all very
big,
around. Like maybe one day we'll release the old episode as like an outtake or something like that because it's mess.
Yeah, it's a hot mess. It's just shitty hot mess.
But such is the nature of Pet Sematary. Thank you, Stephen. Yeah. So you've been listening to
They're Here
podcast. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and all of that good stuff. Thank you. Unpleasant dreams. You hate it every week.
Every single goddamn week.